The rain fell hard on the cracked asphalt of the old gas station on Highway 36, just outside Denver. The neon sign buzzed and flickered, casting strange shadows across the wet ground. It was almost 9 in the evening, and most people were already home with their families, but Frank Murphy was just starting his night shift at the office building down the road. Frank pulled his old pickup truck up to pump 3 and turned off the engine. The truck coughed and wheezed like an old man climbing stairs. At 67 years old, Frank knew how that felt. His back ached from 30 years of cleaning floors and emptying trash cans, but he never complained. Work was work, and he was grateful to have it. As he got out of his truck, Frank noticed a young woman at pump 7. She stood next to a shiny, black Mercedes that looked like it cost more than Frank made in 5 years. The woman wore expensive clothes and had perfectly styled blonde hair, but her face showed pure panic. She kept trying to put her credit card into the gas pump, but it kept getting rejected. Frank watched as the woman pulled out another card and tried again. The same thing happened. She tried a third card with the same result. Her shoulders started to shake, and Frank could see she was about to cry. He knew that feeling well. Money problems were something Frank understood better than most people. The woman pulled out her phone and made a call. Frank could hear her voice getting louder and more upset. She was talking to someone at her bank, asking why all her cards were being declined. The person on the other end must have given her bad news because she hung up and leaned against her car, with her head in her hands. Frank filled up his own truck and paid the $23 at the counter inside. The young clerk looked bored and kept checking his phone. Frank looked back outside and saw the woman still standing by her car. She had her phone out again, probably trying to call someone to help her. Something inside Frank's chest pulled tight. He remembered being young and scared when money problems hit. He remembered the shame of not being able to pay for things he needed. He remembered how alone it felt when everything went wrong at once. Frank walked back outside and approached the woman slowly. He did not want to scare her. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, and he could see tears in her eyes. "Excuse me, miss," Frank said in his quiet voice. "I could not help but notice you are having some trouble. Is everything okay?" The woman wiped her eyes quickly and tried to smile. "Oh, it is nothing serious. Just some problem with my bank. They froze my accounts by mistake. I'm sure it will be fixed tomorrow." Frank nodded. He could see her gas tank was completely empty. The needle on her dashboard pointed straight down. "Where do you need to go tonight?" he asked. "I live about 40 miles from here," she said. "I was coming back from visiting my grandmother in the hospital when my car ran out of gas. I called for help, but everyone is busy tonight because of the storm." Frank looked at the gas pump display. It showed that her tank would need about 18 gallons to fill up. At the current price, that would cost about $73.50. Frank had exactly $87 in his wallet. That was supposed to last him until his next paycheck on Friday, 3 days away. "How much do you need to get home?" Frank asked. The woman looked embarrassed. "The tank holds 18 gallons. I know it is a lot of money. I promise I will pay you back as soon as my bank fixes this mess. I can give you my number and address." Frank was already pulling out his wallet. "Do not worry about paying me back," he said. "Let me help you get home safe." "I cannot let you do that," the woman said. "You do not even know me. This is too much money." "My name is Frank Murphy," he said with a small smile. "Now we know each other, and it is not too much money if it helps someone get home to their family." Frank walked to the gas pump and put his credit card in the machine. He selected regular gas and started filling up the woman's car. She stood next to him with tears running down her face, but this time they were not tears of fear. "I am Lily," she said quietly. "Lily Harrison. I do not know how to thank you." "You do not need to thank me," Frank said. "Someone helped me once when I needed it. Now I am helping you. Maybe someday you will help someone else." The gas pump clicked off at exactly $73.50. Frank put the nozzle back and tore off the receipt. He handed it to Lily, even though she had not asked for it. "Drive safe," Frank said. "The roads are slippery tonight." Lily wanted to say more, but Frank was already walking back to his truck. She got into her Mercedes and started the engine. Through her windshield, she watched Frank drive away in his old pickup truck. She sat there for a few minutes thinking about what had just happened. Lily had never met anyone like Frank Murphy. In her world, people always wanted something in return. They were nice to her because of her money or her family name. But Frank had helped her without knowing anything about her. He had given her most of his money and asked for nothing back. As Lily drove home through the rain, she kept thinking about Frank's kind eyes and gentle voice. She wondered what kind of life he lived, what kind of family he had, and whether he knew that his simple act of kindness had touched her heart in a way that nothing else ever had. Neither Frank nor Lily knew that their brief meeting had been observed by beings from a distant star system. Neither of them could imagine that this simple exchange of $73.50 would change the course of human history forever. Frank drove to work thinking about the young woman and hoping she got home safely. Lily drove to her mansion thinking about the old man who had restored her faith in human goodness. Both of them went to sleep that night believing they would never see each other again. But the universe had different plans. 3 months passed since that rainy night at the gas station. Frank Murphy continued his routine of working nights and sleeping days. He cleaned offices and emptied trash cans, just like he had done for the past 30 years. Sometimes he thought about the young woman named Lily and wondered if she was doing well. He hoped her bank had fixed whatever problem had frozen her accounts. Meanwhile, Lily Harrison had not forgotten about Frank. She tried to find him several times, driving back to that gas station and asking the clerk if he knew the old man with the pickup truck. The clerk remembered Frank but did not know his last name or where he worked. Lily even hired a private investigator. But without more information, it was impossible to track down one Frank in a city the size of Denver. What neither Frank nor Lily knew was that their brief encounter had started something much bigger than either of them could imagine. Dr. Alex Carter worked at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Colorado. He spent his days listening to signals from space, hoping to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Most of the time, he heard nothing but cosmic noise. Stars and planets made sounds, but they were random and meaningless. On a cold morning in December, Alex was drinking his third cup of coffee when his computer started beeping. The sound was different from the usual alerts. This was the special alarm that meant the radio telescopes had detected something unusual. Alex ran to his workstation and looked at the data streaming across his screen. His hands started shaking as he realized what he was seeing. The signals were not random cosmic noise. They were organized, mathematical, and clearly artificial. Someone or something was trying to communicate with Earth. "Julie, come look at this," Alex called to his colleague, Dr. Julie Watson. Julie rushed over and stared at the screen. "Where is this coming from?" she asked. "The Kepler 442 system," Alex said. "About 1,200 light-years away." "That is impossible," Julie said. "Even if there was intelligent life there, how could they send signals that reach us so quickly?" Alex was already running calculations on his computer. "I do not know how they are doing it, but these signals are definitely artificial. Look at this pattern. It is based on prime numbers, just like the signals we would send if we wanted to contact another civilization." For the next 6 hours, Alex and Julie worked together to decode the signals. They called in experts from around the world. Mathematicians, linguists, and computer scientists all studied the data. By evening, they had translated the first message. The message was simple but shocking. It said, "Greetings to the people of Earth. We are the Zephyrians from the Kepler 442 system. We have been watching your planet for many years. We are ready to make contact." Alex immediately called his supervisor, who called his supervisor, who called the President of the United States. Within hours, the news had reached every government on Earth. Humanity had made first contact with an alien civilization. The second message from the Zephyrians arrived the next day. This one was longer and more detailed. It explained that the Zephyrians were an ancient race that traveled between star systems. They had been observing Earth for over 300 years, watching humans develop and grow. The message continued, We have been waiting for your species to demonstrate a specific quality before we made contact. This quality is selfless kindness between strangers, with no expectation of reward or recognition. We have observed many acts of human kindness over the centuries, but we needed to see this quality displayed in its purest form. Alex read the message aloud to the international team of scientists who had gathered at his observatory. Everyone was confused. What did the aliens mean by purest form of kindness? The third message answered their question. 3 months ago, we observed an interaction between two humans at a gas station in Colorado. An elderly man named Frank Murphy helped a young woman named Lily Harrison by paying for her gasoline. This act of kindness was perfect because Frank had no idea that Lily was wealthy. He helped her simply because she needed help, asking for nothing in return. This convinced us that humanity was ready for contact. Alex felt his mouth drop open. The aliens had been watching one specific gas station in Colorado. They had seen Frank Murphy help Lily Harrison, and that single act of kindness had convinced an alien civilization to make first contact with Earth. We need to find these people, Alex said to his team. We need to find Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison. It took 3 days of searching through security cameras, credit card records, and gas station receipts, but they finally tracked down both, Frank and Lily. When government agents knocked on Frank's door at 6 in the morning, he thought he was in trouble. When they explained why they were there, Frank sat down heavily in his old kitchen chair and stared at them in disbelief. You are telling me that aliens have been watching Earth, and they decided to make contact because I helped someone buy gas? Frank asked. That is exactly what we are telling you, Mr. Murphy, said Agent Kate Stevens from the Department of Homeland Security. The aliens specifically mentioned you by name. They want to meet you. Meanwhile, other agents were visiting Lily Harrison at her mansion outside Denver. Lily was having breakfast on her terrace when they arrived. When they explained the situation, Lily started laughing, not because she thought it was funny, but because she could not believe something so incredible was happening. Frank Murphy, she said. I have been trying to find him for 3 months so I could pay him back. Now you are telling me that his kindness has brought aliens to Earth? Yes, Miss Harrison, said Agent Bob Williams. The aliens are requesting a meeting with both you and Mr. Murphy. They want to understand the circumstances of your encounter. Within hours, Frank and Lily were on a military airplane flying to Washington, D.C. They sat across from each other in the small cabin, finally meeting again after 3 months. Frank was wearing his best shirt and tie, looking nervous and out of place. Lily was dressed casually but still looked like she belonged in a magazine. I never got to properly thank you, Lily said as the plane flew over Kansas. You do not need to thank me, Frank replied. But I am still confused about why aliens care about what happened that night. Lily smiled. I am confused about that too, but I am glad we finally get to meet again. Neither of them knew that their reunion was being broadcast live to alien ships, positioned just outside Earth's solar system. The Zephyrians were watching and waiting to see what these two humans would do next. The meeting took place at a secret government facility in Nevada. Frank Murphy sat in a chair that cost more than his monthly salary, feeling completely out of place among the generals, scientists, and politicians who filled the room. Lily Harrison sat next to him, looking calm despite the extraordinary circumstances. Dr. Alex Carter stood at the front of the room with a laptop computer connected to the largest radio telescope array in North America. The Zephyrians have agreed to communicate directly with Mr. Murphy and Miss Harrison, he announced. This will be the first real-time conversation between humans and an alien species. Frank shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I still do not understand why they want to talk to me, he said quietly. I just helped someone buy gas. General Patricia Hayes, the highest-ranking military officer in the room, leaned forward. Mr. Murphy, according to the aliens, your act of kindness was the deciding factor in their decision to make contact with humanity. They have been studying our species for centuries, waiting for the right moment. The speakers in the room crackled to life. A sound unlike anything anyone had ever heard began to emerge. It was musical and harmonious, like wind chimes mixed with whale songs. Dr. Carter's computer translated the sounds into English words that appeared on screens around the room. Greetings, Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison. I am Zeph Kalar speaking, for the Zephyrian Council. We are honored to communicate with you directly. Frank looked around the room nervously, then spoke toward the microphone on the table. Hello, I am not sure what to say. This is all very strange for me. The musical sounds continued and new words appeared on the screens. We understand this must be overwhelming. Please know that we mean no harm to your species. We come as friends and potential allies. Lily found her voice. Why did our meeting at the gas station matter so much to you? An excellent question, Lily Harrison. Our species once faced the same choice that humanity faces now. We were violent and selfish, focused only on power and wealth. We nearly destroyed ourselves in wars over resources and territory. Only when we learned the value of selfless compassion did we become worthy of joining the galactic community. Frank rubbed his forehead. But what I did was not special. People help each other every day. You are correct, Frank Murphy. Humans perform acts of kindness regularly. We have observed millions of such acts over the centuries. However, most acts of human kindness involve people who know each other, or people who expect some form of reward or recognition. Your assistance to Lily Harrison was different. The alien continued. You helped a complete stranger without knowing anything about her background or circumstances. You gave away money you could not afford to lose, and you asked for nothing in return. Most importantly, you did this while believing you would never see her again. This demonstrated pure altruism, the quality we have been waiting to observe. Dr. Carter stepped forward. Zeph Kalar, can you tell us more about this galactic community you mentioned? Certainly, Dr. Carter. The Galactic Council consists of 47 intelligent species spread across this region of the galaxy. We work together to explore the universe, share knowledge, and protect developing civilizations from those who would harm them. Each species must prove they are capable of putting compassion above self-interest before they are invited to join. General Hayes asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens next? Do you want to establish formal relations with Earth? That decision rests with humanity, not with us. We offer your species a choice. We can share technologies that will solve your energy problems, cure your diseases, and allow you to travel between star systems. However, these gifts come with a test. The room fell silent. Every person present understood that the next few minutes could determine the future of the human race. What kind of test? Asked President Helen Davis, who had been listening quietly. From the back of the room. Humanity will have 1 Earth year to demonstrate that you can use advanced technology responsibly. We will provide clean energy sources, medical advances, and basic space travel capabilities. During this year, we will monitor how you use these gifts. If you use them to increase warfare, environmental destruction, or social inequality, we will remove the technology and Earth will be isolated from galactic civilization for 1,000 years. Frank felt the weight of every eye in the room. Why are you asking me about this? I am just a janitor. I clean floors for a living. Frank Murphy, your opinion carries great weight with us because you demonstrated the quality we value most. We want to know, do you believe humanity is ready for this responsibility? Frank was quiet for a long time. He thought about all the wars and violence he had seen on the news. He thought about homeless people sleeping on the streets while rich people built bigger mansions. He thought about politicians who cared more about power than helping their people. But he also thought about the doctors and nurses who worked all night to save lives. He thought about teachers who spent their own money to buy supplies for their students. He thought about ordinary people who helped their neighbors during natural disasters. He thought about Lily, who had spent 3 months trying to find him just to say thank you. I think humans are good people who sometimes make bad choices, Frank said slowly. We are not perfect, but we try to do the right thing most of the time. If you give us a chance to prove ourselves, I believe we will surprise you. Lily nodded in agreement. I have seen the worst of humanity, but I have also seen the best. Frank showed me that there are still people who help others without expecting anything back. If he believes we are ready, then I do too. Zeph Kalar's musical voice filled the room again. Very well. The Zephyrian Council accepts your recommendation. We will begin the testing period in 1 month. During this time, We will establish communication centers in major cities around the world. We will also send cultural ambassadors to help your species understand what joining the galactic community means. Dr. Carter could hardly contain his excitement. This is the greatest moment in human history. Perhaps, Zef-Kalar replied, or perhaps it is simply the beginning of an even greater story. That depends entirely on what humanity does with the opportunities we provide. The communication ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Frank looked at Lily and shook his head. In amazement. 3 months ago I paid for your gas, he said. Now aliens are offering to share their technology with Earth. Lily smiled. And it all started because you had a kind heart and $87 in your wallet. Neither of them realized that this conversation was being broadcast to alien observers stationed throughout the solar system. The Zephyrians were already preparing for the most important test in human history. 1 month later, the world watched in amazement as Zephyrian ships descended from the sky. The vessels were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. They looked like giant crystals that bent light around them, creating rainbow patterns in the air. The ships made no sound as they landed in designated areas outside major cities around the globe. Frank Murphy stood with Lily Harrison and hundreds of government officials on a field outside Denver, watching the largest Zephyrian ship settle gently onto the grass. The ship was the size of a football stadium but weighed nothing. It hovered 3 feet above the ground, supported by forces that human science could not yet understand. I still cannot believe this is really happening, Frank whispered to Lily. Neither. Can I? She replied. A month ago I was just a rich girl with family problems. Now I am about to meet beings from another star system. Dr. Alex Carter stood nearby with his instruments, trying to record everything for scientific analysis. President Davis was there with her security team, looking nervous, but determined. General Hayes commanded a small military unit that was present for protection, though everyone hoped their weapons would not be needed. A section of the crystal ship became transparent, and figures began to emerge. The Zephyrians did not look like the gray aliens from science fiction movies. They were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Their faces were humanoid but beautiful in a way that was almost painful to look at. They moved like dancers, each step perfectly coordinated with the others. The lead Zephyrian approached the human delegation. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, filling the air with musical tones that made everyone feel peaceful and calm. I am Zef-Kalar, the one who spoke with you before. We are pleased to meet you in person. Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison. Frank felt his knees shaking as he stepped forward. It is an honor to meet you too, though I still feel like there has been some mistake. I am not important enough for something like this. Frank Murphy, you represent the best qualities of your species. Your importance cannot be measured by your job or your income. It is measured by your capacity for compassion. Lily joined Frank in front of the alien delegation. What happens now? She asked. Now we begin the testing period, Zef-Kalar replied. Over the next 12 months, we will gradually introduce new technologies to your world. We will start with medical advances that can cure diseases your doctors cannot treat. We will provide clean energy sources that will reduce your planet's environmental damage. We will share basic space travel technology that will allow you to explore your own solar system. President Davis stepped forward. What exactly will you be monitoring during this test? We will observe how your governments and corporations use these technologies. Will you share the medical advances with all people, or only those who can afford them? Will you use clean energy to improve life for everyone, or will you use it to gain power over other nations? Will you explore space peacefully, or will you militarize it? General Hayes had a concerned look on her face. What if some groups misuse the technology while others use it responsibly? Will you judge all of humanity based on the actions of a few? An excellent question, General Hayes. We understand that humanity is not unified under a single government. We will judge your species based on the overall response, not the actions of small groups. However, if major powers begin to use our gifts for warfare or oppression, we will consider that a failure of the test. Dr. Carter raised his hand like a student in school. Can you tell us more about the other species in the Galactic Council? What are they like? Zef-Kalar gestured toward the ship, and images appeared in the air above them. The images showed dozens of different alien species. Some looked like plants that could walk and think. Others resembled insects the size of humans. Some were made of pure energy like the Zephyrians, while others looked almost human, but with blue or green skin. Each species has its own history and culture, Zef-Kalar explained. The botanical collective from Proxima Centauri achieved harmony with their environment before developing technology. The hive networks from Wolf 359 learned to think as one mind while maintaining individual personalities. The crystal builders from Gliese 667c create art that spans entire star systems. What do they all have in common? Lily asked. They all learned to put the welfare of others before their own selfish desires. They all chose cooperation over competition. They all decided that helping others was more important than gaining power. Frank listened to all of this with growing amazement. How long have you been watching Earth? We established our first observation post in your solar system in 1692 by your calendar. We have watched your species develop from primitive farmers to space travelers. We have seen your wars, your art, your science, and your acts of kindness. We have been waiting for the right moment to make contact. Why now? President Davis asked. What made you decide that this was the right time? Your species has reached a critical point in its development. You have the technology to destroy your planet or to heal it. You can choose to explore space peacefully or to bring your conflicts to other worlds. Frank Murphy's act of kindness convinced us that enough humans understand the importance of compassion to make the right choices. Over the next several hours, the Zephyrians demonstrated some of their simpler technologies. They showed medical devices that could heal broken bones in minutes and cure cancer in days. They revealed energy generators the size of refrigerators that could power entire cities without creating pollution. They displayed spacecraft that could travel to Mars in 3 weeks instead of 9 months. Frank watched these demonstrations with wonder and fear. This technology could change everything, he said to Lily. But what if we are not ready for it? I have been thinking about that too, Lily replied. My family's company builds rockets and satellites. This Zephyrian technology is hundreds of years ahead of anything we have. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could be very dangerous. Dr. Carter overheard their conversation. That is exactly what they are testing, he said. They want to see if we can handle advanced technology without destroying ourselves or others. As the day ended, Zef-Kalar made an announcement to the assembled crowd. We will establish permanent communication centers in 50 cities around your planet. Each center will be staffed by Zephyrian cultural ambassadors who will help your people understand what joining the galactic community means. The first technologies will be released to your medical and scientific communities in 1 week. Frank felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The aliens had made it clear that his opinion had influenced their decision to begin this test. If humanity failed, it would partly be his fault. But as he looked at the faces of the people around him, Frank saw hope and excitement along with fear and uncertainty. He saw scientists eager to learn new things. He saw doctors thinking about all the patients they could save. He saw ordinary people dreaming of a better future for their children. I think we can do this, Frank said quietly to himself. I think humans are better than we sometimes believe. Lily heard him and nodded. I hope you are right, Frank. The whole world is counting on it. The first month of the Zephyrian test brought changes that nobody had expected. Medical centers around the world received healing devices that could cure previously incurable diseases. The devices were simple to use but impossible to understand. They looked like smooth metal boxes with no visible controls. But when a sick person touched them, the machine somehow knew exactly what was wrong and how to fix it. Dr. Susan Clark worked at Denver General Hospital, just a few miles from where Frank Murphy cleaned offices at night. When the first Zephyrian medical device arrived at her hospital, Dr. Clark was skeptical. She had been a doctor for 20 years and had seen too many miracle cures that turned out to be false hopes. Run every test you can think of, she told her staff. I want to know exactly what this thing does before we use it on any patients. The tests revealed something impossible. The device could cure cancer, repair damaged organs, and even regenerate lost limbs. It worked on every disease they tested, from common colds to rare genetic disorders. Most amazingly, it seemed to know the difference between healing and enhancement. It would cure a broken leg, but it would not make someone stronger or faster than normal. How does it know what to fix and what to leave alone? Dr. Clark asked the Zephyrian ambassador assigned to her hospital. The ambassador, who called herself Zeph Mira, had the same glowing appearance as all Zephyrians. The device reads the pattern of a healthy body for each species, she explained. It can sense when something is wrong and restore the correct pattern. It cannot make improvements to a healthy body because that would be changing the person's natural state. Dr. Clark was amazed, but she was also worried. What happens to people like me? If these devices can cure any disease, do you still need doctors? Healing technology is only one part of medicine, Zeph Mira replied. Doctors provide comfort, make decisions, and help people understand their health. Technology cannot replace compassion and wisdom. Meanwhile, Lily Harrison was dealing with her own challenges. As the heir to Harrison Aerospace, she suddenly found herself at the center of humanity's introduction to space travel technology. The Zephyrians had shared plans for spacecraft that could travel between planets in weeks instead of years. Lily stood in the main conference room of her company, looking at blueprints that seemed like science fiction. How do we even begin to build something like this? She asked her chief engineer, Pete Collins. We do not, Pete replied honestly. This technology is so far beyond anything we understand that we might as well be cavemen trying to build a computer. We can follow the instructions, but we have no idea how or why it works. That is exactly the point, said the Zephyrian ambassador assigned to Harrison Aerospace. This one called himself Zephron, and he specialized in engineering and construction. Your species must learn to use technology responsibly before you can understand how to create it. We are giving you the tools, but you must choose how to use them. Lily had been thinking about this problem since the test began. What if we make these spacecraft designs available to everyone? Instead of keeping them secret, we could share them with every country on Earth. Pete looked shocked. Lily, these designs are worth billions of dollars. If we give them away, we will lose our competitive advantage. Maybe that is the point, Lily said. Maybe the test is not about making money. Maybe it is about working together. At the same time, Frank Murphy was learning that being famous was much harder than being a janitor. News reporters followed him everywhere, asking him about his thoughts on the alien test. Politicians wanted to meet with him and get his endorsement for their policies. Scientists wanted to study him to understand what made him special. Frank hated all the attention. He still went to work every night cleaning the same offices he had cleaned for 30 years. But now he had bodyguards following him around and reporters waiting outside his apartment building. I just want to go back to my normal life, Frank told Lily during one of their weekly meetings. The government had asked them to stay in regular contact so they could provide updates to the Zephyrians. Understand how you feel, Lily said. But I think we have a responsibility to help make sure this test goes well. The aliens listen to us more than they listen to the politicians. Frank nodded reluctantly. He had been reading news reports about how different countries were responding to the Zephyrian technology. Some nations were sharing the medical devices freely with all their citizens. Others were trying to restrict access to wealthy people who could afford to pay for treatment. It is not going well, is it? Frank said. Some people are already trying to use this technology for selfish reasons. Not everyone, Lily replied. I have been talking to business leaders around the world. Many of them want to do the right thing. They just need someone to show them how. Dr. Carter had been monitoring global responses to the Zephyrian test from his observatory. The results were mixed. Medical advances were being shared relatively fairly in most developed countries, but some regions were still struggling to get access to the healing devices. Clean energy technology was being adopted quickly, but some corporations were trying to patent Zephyrian designs to control their distribution. The space travel technology was causing the biggest problems. Several military leaders were suggesting that the new spacecraft could be used as weapons. Some countries were refusing to share the designs with their neighbors, afraid that faster space travel could give military advantages. "We are failing the test," Dr. Carter told Frank and Lily during a video conference call. "Too many people are thinking about power and profit instead of cooperation and compassion." Frank felt his heart sink. "What can we do about it?" "I have an idea," Lily said, "but it is going to sound crazy." She explained her plan to Frank and Dr. Carter. Instead of working through governments and corporations, they would make a direct appeal to ordinary people around the world. They would use television, internet, and social media to tell the story of what had happened at the gas station and what it meant for humanity's future. "People need to understand that this is not about technology," Lily said. "It is about proving that humans can be trusted with power. We need to show the same kind of kindness that Frank showed me, but on a global scale." Frank was nervous about the idea of speaking to millions of people, but he agreed that something needed to be done. "If the aliens chose to make contact because of what happened between us, maybe people will listen to us about what needs to happen next." Dr. Carter loved the plan. The Zephyrians have been very clear that they are watching how ordinary humans respond to this situation, not just how governments and corporations behave. If we can inspire people to choose compassion over selfishness, we might still pass this test. Within a week, Frank and Lily were appearing on television shows around the world. Frank told the story of that rainy night at the gas station, explaining how a simple act of kindness had led to first contact with an alien civilization. Lily talked about how Frank's compassion had changed her understanding of what it meant to be human. Their message was simple. The Zephyrian test was not really about technology. It was about whether humans could put helping others ahead of helping themselves. Every person on Earth had a choice to make, and the future of the human race depended on those choices. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Videos of Frank and Lily were shared millions of times on social media. People began organizing community groups to discuss how they could contribute to passing the Zephyrian test. Schools started teaching classes about compassion and cooperation. Religious leaders from different faiths worked together to promote messages of kindness and understanding. But not everyone was inspired by their message. Some politicians and business leaders accused Frank and Lily of being naive idealists who did not understand the real world. Some countries became more secretive about their use of Zephyrian technology, afraid that sharing it would make them vulnerable to their enemies. As the test period continued, humanity was clearly divided. Half the world seemed determined to prove that humans deserved to join the galactic community. The other half seemed more interested in using alien technology to gain advantages over their fellow humans. Frank watched these developments with growing concern. "I am afraid we are going to fail," he told Lily. "Too many people care more about winning than about doing what is right." "Do not give up yet," Lily replied. "We still have 8 months left. A lot can change in 8 months." Neither of them knew that Zeph Kalar was watching their television appearances from his ship, taking careful notes about human behavior during the most important test in their species' history. 6 months into the Zephyrian test, everything went wrong at once. It started when General Hayes received intelligence reports that 3 countries had secretly modified Zephyrian spacecraft designs to create weapons. The modified ships could carry nuclear missiles between continents in less than 30 minutes, making traditional defense systems useless. "This is exactly what we were afraid of," General Hayes told President Davis during an emergency meeting in Washington. "If these weapon systems spread to more countries, we could have a new arms race that makes the Cold War look peaceful." At the same time, several large corporations had found ways to monopolize Zephyrian medical technology. Instead of sharing the healing devices freely, they were charging enormous fees for treatment. People were dying from curable diseases because they could not afford to pay for access to alien medicine. Dr. Carter watched these developments with growing alarm from his observatory in Colorado. The Zephyrians had not said anything publicly about humanity's failures, but their communication had become less frequent and more formal. He could sense their disappointment. Frank Murphy felt the weight of the world's problems pressing down on him. He sat in his small apartment, watching news reports about wars being fought with Zephyrian technology and sick children being denied medical treatment because their families were poor. This is my fault, Frank said to himself. I told the aliens that humans were ready for this responsibility. I was wrong. Lily Harrison was having her own crisis of faith. Despite her efforts to share spacecraft technology freely, most aerospace companies had refused to cooperate. They were more interested in gaining competitive advantages than in working together for the good of humanity. We are going to fail this test, Lily told her assistant during a board meeting at Harrison Aerospace. And when we do, it will be because people chose greed over kindness. The breaking point came when a conflict in Eastern Europe escalated into the first war fought with Zephyrian technology. Modified spacecraft attacked cities with precision weapons that could destroy entire buildings without harming nearby structures. The casualty count was lower than traditional warfare, but the psychological impact was devastating. Humans were using gifts from an advanced alien civilization to kill each other. Dr. Carter received an emergency communication from Zeph Kalar 3 days after the attacks began. Dr. Carter, we are deeply concerned about recent developments on your planet. The use of our technology for warfare violates the basic principles of the Galactic Council. We must consider ending the test period early. Dr. Carter felt his heart racing. Please, Zeph Kalar, do not judge all of humanity based on the actions of a few governments. Many people are trying to use your gifts responsibly. We understand that your species is not unified, Dr. Carter. However, we cannot ignore the fact that our technology is being used to cause harm. If this continues, we will have no choice but to remove all Zephyrian devices from your planet and isolate Earth from galactic civilization. That night, Dr. Carter called Frank and Lily for an emergency video conference. All three of them looked exhausted and defeated. The aliens are thinking about ending the test early, Dr. Carter told them. If they do, humanity will lose its chance to join the galactic community for the next 1,000 years. Frank rubbed his tired eyes. What can we do? We are just 3 people. We cannot stop wars or change how governments behave. Maybe we cannot stop the wars, Lily said slowly. But maybe we can show the aliens that most humans still believe in doing the right thing. She explained her idea. Instead of trying to influence governments and corporations, they would organize ordinary people around the world to demonstrate human compassion on a massive scale. They would use social media and television to coordinate the largest act of kindness in human history. What did you have in mind? Dr. Carter asked. A global day of helping, Lily said. We ask every person on Earth to perform one act of kindness for a stranger. Nothing big or expensive. Just simple acts of compassion like the one Frank showed me at the gas station. Frank liked the idea, but he was skeptical. How do we organize something like that? There are almost 8 billion people on Earth. We start with the people who are already inspired by your story, Lily said. Millions of people have watched our interviews and joined local kindness groups. We ask them to spread the message to their friends and families. We ask them to organize events in their communities. Dr. Carter was getting excited. We could call it Global Kindness Day. We could ask everyone to perform their act of kindness at the same time, so the aliens can observe the entire planet choosing compassion over selfishness. They worked for 2 weeks to organize the event. Lily used her family's wealth to buy television and internet advertising around the world. Frank appeared in videos explaining how small acts of kindness could change everything. Dr. Carter coordinated with scientists in other countries to monitor global communications and track participation. The response exceeded their wildest expectations. Religious leaders from every major faith endorsed Global Kindness Day. Teachers organized school projects where children would help elderly neighbors. Doctors volunteered to provide free medical care in poor communities. Business leaders pledged to share Zephyrian technology without regard for profit. Even some political leaders got involved. The president of Brazil announced that his country would make all Zephyrian medical devices available to anyone who needed them, regardless of their ability to pay. The Prime Minister of Canada promised to share clean energy technology with developing nations. Several African countries formed a coalition to distribute healing devices to refugee camps. But not everyone supported Global Kindness Day. Some corporations complained that giving away Zephyrian technology would hurt the economy. Some military leaders argued that sharing spacecraft designs would compromise national security. Some politicians called the whole event a naive publicity stunt. The criticism reached its peak when a news commentator named Jake Morrison went on television to attack Frank personally. "Frank Murphy is just a janitor who got lucky," Morrison said. "He has no education, no expertise, and no business telling world leaders how to handle the most important event in human history. His 15 minutes of fame should have ended months ago." Frank watched the broadcast from his apartment and felt hurt and angry. He had never asked for fame or attention. He had just tried to help someone who needed assistance. But the next day, something unexpected happened. Millions of people around the world responded to Morrison's attack by posting videos online. They talked about times when janitors, waitresses, bus drivers, and other ordinary workers had shown them kindness. They pointed out that Frank's job did not matter, because compassion was not something you learned in school or bought with money. "Frank Murphy represents the best of humanity," said one video posted by a teacher in Tokyo. "He reminds us that anyone can choose to help others, regardless of their social status or wealth." The controversy actually helped promote Global Kindness Day. More people heard about the event, and more communities organized participation activities. News organizations that had initially been skeptical started covering the story positively. 1 week before Global Kindness Day, Frank received a personal message from Zeph Kalar. "Frank Murphy, we have been monitoring your efforts to organize this global demonstration of compassion. We are impressed by your determination to inspire others, despite the criticism you have faced. Whatever happens during your test period, know that you have already proven yourself worthy of our respect." Frank felt tears in his eyes as he read the message. "Thank you," he said aloud, knowing the aliens could hear him. "I just hope we can show you that most humans are good people who want to help each other." The day before the global event, Lily made one final television appearance to explain what Global Kindness Day meant for humanity's future. "Tomorrow, we have a chance to show an advanced alien civilization who we really are," she said. "We can prove that humans are capable of putting compassion ahead of competition. We can demonstrate that Earth deserves to join a community of peaceful species who work together to make the universe a better place." As she spoke, Frank Murphy was getting ready to return to work. Despite everything that had happened, he still cleaned offices at night. It was honest work, and it reminded him of who he had been before aliens changed his life forever. Tomorrow would determine whether humanity passed or failed the most important test in its history. The outcome would depend on the choices made by billions of ordinary people, just like the choice Frank had made on a rainy night at a gas station 6 months earlier. Global Kindness Day began at sunrise in New Zealand and moved across the world like a wave of compassion. Dr. Carter monitored the event from his observatory, tracking social media posts, news reports, and communication with Zephyrian observation stations around the globe. In Auckland, thousands of people gathered in city parks to distribute free food to homeless individuals. In Tokyo, office workers spent their lunch breaks visiting elderly people in nursing homes. In Mumbai, doctors set up free medical clinics in poor neighborhoods using Zephyrian healing devices. Frank Murphy woke up early in Denver and drove to the same gas station where his encounter with Lily had started everything. He had arranged to spend the day there, helping people who were having car trouble or needed money for gas. Local news crews were filming, but Frank tried to ignore the cameras and focus on the people who needed help. The first person Frank assisted was Maria Santos, a single mother whose car had broken down on her way to work. Frank not only paid for her gas but also called a mechanic friend to look at her engine for free. "Why are you doing this?" Maria asked as Frank's friend fixed her car. "Because someone needs help, and I can provide it," Frank replied. "That is all the reason anyone ever needs." Meanwhile, Lily Harrison was at Denver International Airport, coordinating flights of medical supplies to disaster zones around the world. She had converted 3 of her company's cargo planes into medical transport aircraft, and volunteers were loading them with Zephyrian healing devices and traditional medical supplies. "Where is this flight going?" asked Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a Volunteer surgeon who is helping with the loading, Somalia, Lily replied. There are refugee camps there that have not received any Zephyrian medical technology yet. We are going to change that today. As the day progressed, reports poured in from every continent. In Brazil, engineers were installing free clean energy, generators in remote villages that had never had electricity. In Kenya, teachers were using Zephyrian translation devices to provide education to children who spoke different languages. In Norway, fishermen were sharing advanced navigation technology with colleagues from other countries. Not every story was positive. Some governments tried to prevent their citizens from participating in Global Kindness Day. Some corporations filed lawsuits to stop the free distribution of Zephyrian technology. Some military leaders complained that sharing spacecraft designs was a security risk. But for every negative response, there were hundreds of positive ones. Videos flooded social media showing ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of kindness. A group of teenagers in Chicago used their allowance money to buy groceries for elderly neighbors. Construction workers in London spent their day off building wheelchair ramps for disabled families. Farmers in India donated crops to food banks in nearby cities. Dr. Carter was amazed by the global coordination. This is incredible, he told his assistant, as they watched data streams from around the world. We are seeing simultaneous acts of kindness on every continent. The Zephyrians must be impressed by this level of organization and participation. The most moving moment came when Frank received a video call from Lily while she was flying over the Atlantic Ocean. Frank, you need to see this, Lily said, holding up her tablet computer. We are getting reports from the refugee camp in Somalia. The moment our medical team arrived with the healing devices, people started lining up to help each other get treatment. They are not pushing or fighting for access. They are organizing themselves to make sure the sickest people get help first. Frank felt tears in his eyes as he watched the footage. They are choosing to be kind even when they are desperate and afraid. It is happening everywhere, Lily continued. People are using this day to show the best parts of human nature. Maybe we really can pass this test. As evening approached in Denver, Frank was exhausted but hopeful. He had helped dozens of people throughout the day, and he had watched thousands of others doing the same thing. The gas station that had been the scene of his first encounter with Lily had become a symbol of human compassion. But the day was not over yet. Dr. Carter received an urgent communication from Zeph Kalar just as the sun was setting in Colorado. Dr. Carter, we have been monitoring the global activities today with great interest. However, we have also detected increased military movements in several regions. Some governments appear to be using Global Kindness Day as a distraction, while they prepare for conflicts using Zephyrian technology. Dr. Carter felt his heart sink. Are you saying that some people are using our Day of Kindness as cover for preparations for war? That appears to be the case. We are detecting spacecraft movements and weapon deployments in at least 4 countries. This suggests that some humans view compassion and aggression as compatible strategies. Frank and Lily joined the communication from the gas station using a mobile satellite connection that Dr. Carter had set up. What does this mean for the test? Lily asked. It means that humanity is demonstrating both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness on the same day, Zeph Kalar replied. Millions of your people are choosing kindness, but some of your leaders are choosing conflict. We must decide which tendency represents the true nature of your species. Frank felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. How do you make that decision? How do you judge an entire species when different groups are doing opposite things? That is exactly the question we are struggling with, Frank Murphy. In the past, species have usually been clearly ready or clearly unready for galactic citizenship. Humanity is presenting us with a more complex situation. Dr. Carter had an idea. What if you extended the test period? Give us more time to prove that the positive responses outweigh the negative ones? Unfortunately, that is not possible. The use of our technology for military purposes violates fundamental Galactic Council principles. If conflicts begin using Zephyrian devices, we will be required to remove all technology immediately and isolate your planet. As if summoned by their conversation, news alerts began appearing on their devices. A border conflict between 2 small countries had escalated into active combat using modified Zephyrian spacecraft. The fighting had started less than 2 hours earlier, just as Global Kindness Day was ending in some parts of the world. "This is it," Lily said quietly. "We are about to fail the test because some people could not resist using alien technology to fight each other." Frank stared at the news reports, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. All those people who helped others today, all those acts of kindness, are they going to be forgotten because of a few politicians who chose violence? "Not forgotten," Zefkalar said gently. "What we observed today was remarkable. Your species demonstrated that it is capable of planet-wide coordination for positive purposes. Millions of humans chose to help strangers without any expectation of reward. This gives us hope for your future." "But not enough hope to pass the test?" Dr. Carter asked. "We will make our final decision within 24 hours. We will consider everything we have observed during the past 6 months, including the inspiring events of today and the disappointing conflicts that are beginning tonight." The communication ended, leaving Frank, Lily, and Dr. Carter standing in the parking lot of the gas station where everything had started. Around them, volunteers were cleaning up from the day's activities. News crews were packing their equipment. The normal evening rush of commuters was beginning. "I do not think we passed," Frank said quietly. "We came close, but we could not overcome human nature completely." "Maybe that is okay," Lily replied. "Maybe the test was not about being perfect. Maybe it was about showing that we can be better than we used to be." Dr. Carter looked up at the stars that were becoming visible in the darkening sky. "Tomorrow we will find out if humanity gets to join those stars, or if we have to wait another 1,000 years for another chance." None of them slept well that night. Around the world, billions of people waited for the Zephyrian decision that would determine the future of the human race. The outcome of the most important test in history would be announced in less than 24 hours. Frank Murphy, the janitor whose $73.50 act of kindness had started everything, spent the night wondering if he had given the aliens good advice about human nature. By tomorrow evening he would have his answer. The next morning brought terrible news. The border conflict that had started during Global Kindness Day had spread to 3 more countries overnight. Modified Zephyrian spacecraft were being used to attack military targets across 2 continents. The weapons were precise and caused fewer casualties than traditional warfare, but the principle remained the same. Humans were using gifts from an advanced alien civilization to kill each other. Frank Murphy sat in his kitchen, drinking coffee and watching news reports that made his heart ache. 6 months of progress destroyed in one night, he said to himself. All those people who showed kindness yesterday, and it will not matter because politicians chose war. Dr. Carter had not slept at all. He spent the night in his observatory, monitoring communications from Zephyrian ships around the solar system. The aliens had become completely silent. No responses to human messages, no updates on their decision, no hints about what they were thinking. "This silence is not a good sign," Dr. Carter told his assistant. "When the Zephyrians are pleased with something, they communicate freely. When they are disappointed, they withdraw." Lily Harrison was on her way back from Somalia, where her medical mission had saved hundreds of lives using Zephyrian healing devices. But even that success felt hollow now. She stared out the airplane window at the clouds below and wondered if this would be humanity's last chance to use alien technology for good. President Davis called an emergency meeting of world leaders to discuss the crisis. Representatives from 50 countries gathered by video conference to hear the latest intelligence reports about the spreading conflict. "The situation is escalating rapidly," General Hayes reported. 4 countries are now using modified Zephyrian technology in active combat. 2 more nations have deployed similar weapons and are threatening to join the fighting. If this continues, we could see the first global war fought with alien technology. "Can we stop it?" asked the Prime Minister of Canada. "Not without using force against our own allies," General Hayes replied. "The countries involved in the fighting are not responding to diplomatic pressure. They seem determined to test their new weapons regardless of the consequences." President Davis looked tired and defeated. "So we are going to fail the Zephyrian Test because a handful of nations could not resist starting wars with alien technology. It appears that way, General Hayes confirmed. At exactly noon Eastern Time, every Zephyrian communication center around the world activated simultaneously. The musical tones that indicated an incoming message filled the air at 50 locations across 6 continents. Dr. Carter rushed to his workstation as the translation appeared on his screens. People of Earth, this is Zeph Kalar speaking for the Zephyrian Council. We are ready to announce our decision regarding your species' readiness to join the galactic community. Within minutes, every television and radio station on the planet was broadcasting the message. Frank Murphy stopped what he was doing and turned up the volume on his old television. Lily Harrison watched from her airplane as the captain announced that all passengers should listen to an important message from the aliens. Over the past 6 months, we have observed your species respond to advanced technology in ways that both inspire and concern us. We have seen acts of selfless compassion that rival the best examples from any civilization in our experience. We have also seen examples of greed, violence, and short-sighted thinking that demonstrate why some species never advance beyond their home planets. Frank felt his stomach tighten. This sounded like the beginning of a rejection. Yesterday, your Global Kindness Day showed us that hundreds of millions of humans are capable of coordinating peaceful actions for the benefit of others. The scope and sincerity of this demonstration exceeded our expectations. However, the conflicts that began last night show us that some humans are still willing to use advanced technology for warfare. The message paused, and Frank could imagine billions of people around the world holding their breath. After extensive deliberation, the Zephyrian Council has reached a decision. We will not be removing our technology from Earth, nor will we be isolating your planet from galactic civilization. Frank almost fell off his chair. They had passed the test. However, our decision comes with conditions that have never been applied to any other species. Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. You will have access to our technologies and knowledge, but you will remain under observation for the next 50 Earth years. Dr. Carter was frantically taking notes as the message continued. During this probationary period, any use of Zephyrian technology for warfare or oppression will result in immediate removal of that specific technology. Countries or organizations that misuse our gifts will lose access to them permanently. However, those who use our technology responsibly will continue to receive new advances and support. Lily smiled as she listened from her airplane. The Zephyrians had found a way to reward good behavior while punishing bad behavior. We are implementing this unprecedented decision because of what we observed yesterday. The fact that hundreds of millions of humans could coordinate simultaneous acts of kindness across your entire planet demonstrates that your species has the potential for galactic citizenship. However, the conflicts that began last night demonstrate that this potential has not yet been fully realized. Frank understood what the aliens were saying. Humanity had passed the test, but just barely. We are particularly influenced by the example set by Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison. Their story demonstrates that humans are capable of transcending social and economic differences to help each other. Frank Murphy's willingness to help a stranger and Lily Harrison's determination to use her resources for the benefit of others represent the qualities we hope to see spread throughout your species. Frank felt tears running down his cheeks. 6 months ago, he had been an anonymous janitor. Now aliens from another star system were using his name as an example of human potential. The conflicts currently taking place on your planet will be ended immediately. We are disabling all military applications of Zephyrian technology as of this moment. Countries that were using our gifts for warfare will find that their modified spacecraft and weapons no longer function. Dr. Carter watched his monitoring equipment as reports came in from around the world. The fighting had stopped instantly. Modified Zephyrian weapons were shutting down everywhere. Medical and energy technologies will continue to function normally for all humans who use them peacefully. Space travel technology will be available to any organization that commits to using it for exploration and scientific research rather than military purposes. The message was almost over, but Zeph Kalar had one final announcement. Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison, we would like to invite you to visit our home system as Earth's first cultural ambassadors to the Zephyrian people. Dr. Alex Carter, We offer you the position of Director of Earth's first interstellar communication center. General Patricia Hayes, we ask you to lead a new international peacekeeping force that will ensure Zephyrian technology is used responsibly. Frank sat in stunned silence as the message ended. The aliens wanted him to travel to another star system. A few months ago, his biggest worry had been whether he had enough money to buy groceries for the week. His phone rang, and he saw Lily's name on the display. "Frank, did you hear that?" Lily asked excitedly. "They want us to be ambassadors to an alien civilization." "I heard it," Frank replied, "but I do not know if I am ready for something like that. I am just a janitor." "You are the man whose kindness convinced an alien civilization to give humanity a chance," Lily said. "I think you are ready for anything." Over the next few hours, news came in from around the world. The countries that had been fighting with Zephyrian technology found their weapons completely disabled. Some political leaders were angry, but most were relieved that the conflicts had ended so quickly. More importantly, the medical and energy technologies continued to work perfectly. Hospitals could still cure diseases that had been incurable a year earlier. Cities could still power themselves with clean energy that produced no pollution. Dr. Carter received a personal message from Zeph Kalar that evening. "Dr. Carter, we want you to know that your species came very close to failing this test. The margin was narrow enough that the Zephyrian Council debated for several hours before reaching our decision. What convinced us to give humanity this chance was not any single factor, but rather the combination of Frank Murphy's original act of kindness, the global response to your call for compassion, and the determination of people like you and Lily Harrison to keep fighting for the best aspects of human nature." Frank got a similar message a few minutes later. "Frank Murphy, you asked us to give humanity a chance because you believe that humans are good people who sometimes make bad choices. You were correct. Your species has tremendous potential for both good and evil. We are giving you 50 years to prove that the good will eventually outweigh the evil. We believe you will succeed, largely because of examples like the one you set on that rainy night 6 months ago." 3 months later, Frank Murphy and Lily Harrison boarded the first human spacecraft built with Zephyrian technology.